Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where every day we try to demystify complex technologies and translate them into a language that we can all understand. And today we have a guest whose expertise spans a realm that many consider to be the final frontier of computing. Of course, I'm talking about quantum computing. And Tony Uttley, the president and COO of Quantinuum, is going to be joining us today. And he has over a decade of experience leading in the quantum industry. And someone I feel is uniquely positioned to offer not just an overview, but also a deep dive into this transformative technology. And from its potential impact on sectors like cybersecurity and pharmaceuticals, to its investments, risks and rewards. We're going to cover it all. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Minneapolis, where Tony's waiting to join us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Happy to be here. My name is Tony Uttley, and I am the president and chief operating officer of a company called Quantinuum, which happens to be the largest quantum computing company in the world. And from my standpoint, is particularly enjoyable because I started my career working for NASA at the Johnson Space Center. I spent a decade there. I spent about the next decade working in consulting for a company called the Boston Consulting Group. And then the last about 15 years of my career have been focused on developing what is now going to be some of the most game-changing technology in the world. So I've had a immensely exciting career, kind of capped to where it is right now in this place where we get to change the world. It's very cool.
Incredibly cool. Man, absolutely love that. What a backstory. And there's so much hype around quantum computing at the moment, and we will have people that know a little about it, some know a lot, and some know very little and feel intimidated by it. So just to set the scene for today's conversation, how would you explain the concept of quantum computing to everyone listening, and what makes it fundamentally different from classical computing?
I get this one all the time, and it's the right question. It's the right question to ask. The first thing I always start with is it's not just a faster classical computer. So classical computers work sequentially, and they work very, very fast. So, and some of the amazing progress that we've seen in the world has come because of these classical computing machines that do what they do expertly. What quantum computers are really designed to do is tackle problems that are quantum in nature. And what does that mean? That means, imagine you're trying to design a new life-saving drug. And as you're trying to design that drug, the molecules, you'd really like to understand how exactly does that molecule interact with the world around it, with the cells in the body. And we don't have a good way to analyze that with today's classical computers. There's just so many different combinations of things that can happen all at the same time that problem becomes something that we call intractable, meaning even if you had the biggest supercomputer in the world, it can't answer that question. What quantum computers promise to do is to be able to tackle that problem the same way the molecule itself works, which is you get to take advantage of things that are quantum in nature. We use atoms to do computing, and those atoms interact like other atoms do that would be in your body or in this life-saving drug. And so it's really a question of calculating in a completely different way. The second thing I typically talk about is then how does that happen? How does it interact in this different way? And it starts with three things that I call the superpowers of quantum computing. The first is something called superposition. It is the idea that if you have a quantum bit, which in classical computing, you'd say, I have a bit. That bit can either be a 0 or a 1. In quantum computing, we call it a quantum bit, a qubit. And that qubit can be both a 0 and a 1 at exactly the same time, which is it's a remarkable feature of quantum computing. You could have this duality, this dual state happening at the same time. The second superpower is something that we call entanglement, which is you can get these two qubits together, impart information on both of them at the same time, and then as you move them apart in both space and time, they continue to have that information about each other. They continue to stay correlated. And then the third piece that is the superpower is something called interference, which is kind of a fancy way of saying if you design the problem correctly, then the way the problem will work is you only have the right answer at the end. All the incorrect answers all interfere with each other, and you're just left with the correct answer. So you have these three superpowers, this superposition, this entanglement, and this interference. And when you then use the quantum computer to do these computations, they can take on immense amounts of values and then shrink back down to get the correct answer.
It's incredibly cool what we're talking about here. And I think we're only just beginning to try and think bigger as we start to explore the art of the possible. And just to bring to life everything that you just mentioned there, given your experience in the industry, are there any real world applications that you might be seeing or hearing about where quantum computing is already making an impact, particularly in, let's say, cybersecurity?
Yeah, that's a great question, and probably one of the most exciting things about what I get to do, which is we have found out that these quantum computers that we make are already good at doing things that classical computers can't. And one of the things that we are able to make our quantum computers do is something that is intrinsically quantum. What is intrinsically quantum? We take advantage of our quantum computer as it's operating to create pure entropy, which means randomness. We can make, basically distill out perfect randomness. And if you wonder, well, what is perfect randomness useful for? That is how you want to make encryption keys. So if you're trying to protect the most valuable data you have, it could be patient data, it could be financial data, it could be governments protecting data. The typical way of doing that today is through something called encryption, right? Which kind of scrambles all the information. So if somebody else were to see it, they don't know what it is. And the way to do that is to have an algorithm that does it. Think of that as the lock, and then a key. And so what we do is we can make the world's best encryption keys by using what comes directly out of our quantum computer. And that happens right now. We have customers already in the world that are using our product. We call it Quantum Origin, which I like. It's kind of an homage to this is the way quantum computing is going to start in the world, and Quantum Origin gets used to help create these quantum computing hardened encryption keys.
And I'm curious, what would you say are the key sectors where you might see quantum computing having a particular transformative effect in the near and long-term future? Is it isolated to certain industries, or is it much wider than that?
No, we're actually seeing a very broad set of applications happening across industries. The ones that have leaned forward, I think, the hardest and first are financial services. So these tend to be these big banks and trading houses that are trying to think about a future where you can make more efficient portfolios out of these different financial assets that you're trying to manage, or you're trying to understand and do better at fraud detection, which helps all of us in the world. You're seeing pharmaceutical companies look at this future where they can help design more effectively and more efficiently, new life-saving drugs. We're looking at companies that are making new materials that are necessary for benefiting our society from a sustainability standpoint. In fact, there was some recent work that we announced alongside BMW and Airbus, where we are looking at the catalysts, so platinum catalysts, to be able to do hydrogen fuel cells. And why do you care about hydrogen fuel cells? Because if you want to think about a future where you have the, basically electric powered airplanes, then you need to have something that's going to be able to power those. And one of the candidates that's outstanding right now is to be able to use these hydrogen fuel cells to do that. Same thing, same reason why BMW is looking at all the ground fleet that they would have from vehicles that might be able to be powered by hydrogen fuel cells. So the work necessary to go do that is work that takes a long time using classical computers. And we finally gotten to that point where it appears we will be faster at doing that work using quantum computers than without it.
And it is 2023, and we've gone at least 15 minutes without mentioning AI yet, which must be some kind of record for this year. But it is a huge talking point right now. So I have to ask the inevitable question about that relationship between quantum computing and artificial intelligence. How do you envision that synergy advancing the field of AI? Because I would imagine when these two technologies converge, then the sky's the limit, right?
Absolutely. Actually, we have a very specific point of view on this, and that's because when we see this emergence of different uses for AI, one of the places that we're seeing, all of us, is that it's not really going into industries that are regulated. So what do I mean by regulated industries? Could be healthcare, could be financial services, things where aviation, things where you have to know the decisions that were made to get to an answer. There has to be traceability. There has to be accountability. And unfortunately, the way a lot of AI works today, basically all AI works today, it turns into basically a black box. You have a series of training algorithms, and by the time you've gone through the third training iteration, you don't really know the decisions that are being made to get to that answer. So how do we solve that problem? One of the ways to solve that problem, in fact, it might be the only way to solve that problem, is by using quantum computers to, again, do something that they do natively. There's an entire area of our company that is called quantum natural language processing. And that quantum natural language processing helps do that one piece really well. It helps provide complete transparency for any type of computation where you're trying to understand meaning, where you're trying to know what it was that was being asked for and why a certain answer was being delivered. And so there will absolutely be this mashup of technologies that happens, bringing quantum computers together with AI to deliver solutions. And we're excited to do that.
And as you said there, I mean, quantum technology does promise groundbreaking advancements, but there is that element of risk. So can you shed any light on any of those potential risks and equally rewards associated with investing in quantum computing?
Yeah, I think like all new technologies, there's always that risk of, could this be used for really good things, or could this be used for really bad things? And so you try to do everything in your power to set up mechanisms for ensuring that it is erring on the side of good here. One of the discoveries that happened that actually really kind of instigated how fast resources were going into quantum computing was an algorithm that was envisioned quite some time ago. It's called Shor's algorithm, done by Professor Peter Shor. And that algorithm showed that with a sufficiently large enough quantum computer, you could break what is the encryption that's used today. So the process by which typically these encryption keys and the lock, the algorithm part of it are made, you could use a quantum computer to break that open. Now, that obviously sparked a lot of concern. Wow. What if somebody had one of these really big quantum computers? What could they be doing? And so there's a lot of work that's going on across the world to try to imagine a future and build this future that is in this post-quantum world. And so there are things that these quantum computers are going to be able to go do. And because we can already envision what they're going to be able to go do, we have to think about how do we protect ourselves as well. And the good news in that particular case is there are things that quantum computers can do already that you can actually use to help protect against this future quantum threat. So it's a carefully and thoughtfully balanced approach that's happening for companies and governments around the world as we're looking at creating both this technology and the various things that we have to do to protect ourselves.
And one of the things I always try and do every day on this podcast is finally lay to rest any myths around certain technologies or certain trends or business things that are happening in businesses around the world. And I suspect there are more than a few quantum stories filling up your newsfeed that have you reaching to toss the nearest table and wanting to set the record straight. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions or myths about quantum computing that you encounter, and how do you work to demystify them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few that repeat themselves quite a bit. One of them is quantum computers are still 10 years away or 15 years away. Not true. We have them right now, and they can do things right now that classical computers can't. The next is, quantum computers are really only going to be good for one thing. It's either they're only going to be good for this future breaking cryptography, or it's only going to be used for this one thing, very isolated part of a chemistry problem. And what we're finding out today, which we have found out as humans over the course of all of human history, is that if you give incredible tools to brilliant people, they will find something to go do with it. And so we're seeing that play out in real time. And I love it. I get to see it because we didn't realize as we were building these quantum computers that already they can help solve things like condensed matter physics problems or high energy physics problems that can't be solved any other way. And, is that something near and dear to maybe everybody's heart? Maybe not. But there are people in the world, whether they work for CERN or they work on things like the Large Hadron Collider, where we're looking at how do we understand our universe better? And we have now created a tool that allows us to do that. Things that were only theoretical, you can prove out on this incredible device. And that's really what I'm excited about, is that there's this mashup of myth that says, we're a decade away, or this is only going to solve one thing. That's now combining head on with now, every 3 to 6 months, it turns out that we're able to showcase this something new that we can do with quantum computers that you can't do with a classical computer. And those are going to start coming out more and more. And you're going to see these application areas and these use cases where we're all going to get to benefit from it. And I think that's what really drives me.
Love that. And we're recording this right towards the end of cybersecurity month, so we got to mention cybersecurity again here. I mean, you did mention it is crucial. Quantum is crucial for the future of cybersecurity measures. So, to bring that to life, can you elaborate on some of the specific threats that it might be able to address, both known and perhaps some of those less commonly understood ones too?
Yeah, I think one thing, unfortunately, that is just a reality in the world we live in there are very sophisticated attackers. And, in the world of cybersecurity, they're typically called adversaries. There's some adversary out there. And there are cases where these are nation state adversaries, which means there's a lot of resources being brought to bear to try to get information, right? And it could be anything from your bank account information to your credit card information to your healthcare information to, things that we as individuals absolutely care about and want somebody somewhere to be doing something to protect us. And that is where we start to already see value coming from quantum computers. When we do things like create these quantum computing hardened keys, it's not just because it makes it hard for classical attackers or attackers using classical computers to do it. It protects from a world where you have that and quantum computers at your disposal. Now, is that a silver bullet and you fixed everything? It's not. Cybersecurity is always a multi-layer, multi-dimensional thing that you have to do to try to make yourself a harder target. But what's great is that as you see these various threats, you can start to use additional tools that were never at your disposal to help build that resiliency. And we're seeing that as we put our product Quantum Origin physically into products now, where these products are going to be out in the world, like smart meters for gas or smart meters for electricity, and they're going to sit out there on the critical infrastructure for the next 15 years, and they're going to have their ability to create their own quantum computing hardened encryption keys. We want that. All of us want that, so that those tools that can be brought to bear are now being brought to bear to help protect us.
And we are at that time of the year where futurists are already beginning to fill our news feeds with predictions for the year ahead and tech trends we can expect. We've already dispelled the myth that quantum computing is not 10 years away. It is already here. So as you see it, what would you say are the next big milestones on the horizon for the future of quantum computing? And for any business leader or government leader or somebody working in government listening, how should they be preparing for this fourth technological revolution?
Yeah, I'll start with what's the milestone? What can we all look out for that we expect to happen fairly soon? And that is to have a quantum computer get to the point where it is consistently and routinely able to pass what is possible to classically simulate, even with the biggest supercomputer in the world. We are not very far away from that. And when that happens, you've now crossed into a new era. You've crossed into an era where classical computers can't simulate what these quantum computers are doing at all. The next is going to be these applications where, just like we have done with cybersecurity, just like we're seeing with condensed matter physics, the high energy physics, we're going to see more and more applications that just have broader uses that are going to start to be only really possible or enabled through these quantum computers. And like any technology, you have to go back far enough to then think about it over time. If you could rewind and start at the beginning of classical computing, or if you could rewind and start at the beginning of the internet, you'd realize that there were just certain specific applications at first, and then it kept on growing and growing and growing. That's exactly what we're going to see with quantum computing. We're going to start to see it inserted into places that start to influence our daily lives. And we may not ever touch a quantum computer ourselves, but it might be an application that you're working on your mobile phone that is going back across the world and reaching in and doing something from a quantum computer. And we are just not very, very far away from that era where that's happening.
Incredibly exciting road ahead. And of course, there is a real pressure on everyone to be in a state of continuous learning. But I'm curious, as someone that, like yourself, that is leading the way in a specialist field like quantum computing, and that pace of technological change is moving at breakneck speed. Where or how do you self-educate and keep up to speed with the latest technology trends?
I have an advantage, I guess, and that advantage is we have about 500 people in our company. Of that 500 people, we have about 360 that are technical folks, including over 220 PhD physicists. So it turns out I have my own physics department I can tap into to ask questions, and I do all the time. We have some of the leading experts in the world on these various things, from cybersecurity to chemistry to AI to quantum natural language processing. And I get to walk into their office and just go up to the whiteboard and have them teach me. And I just say, teach me like I'm a 5-year-old, because in this moment I am. And that's how I get to do it. It's great. And you tap into these brilliant minds that are doing what they do all day, every day, and get to have it spoken in a way that you can then understand and interpret. And so I love it. Learning every single day.
Oh, wow. What a gift that is. Just being able to have your own physics department, you can go and ask questions. I absolutely love that. And for anyone listening that doesn't have their own physics department and wants to just find out more information about anything we talked about today, learn more about Quantinuum, contact you or your team, what's the best starting point for everything?
Absolutely. Always go to our website. So www.quantinuum.com. And you'll see how much is really happening in this space, and what's possible across the world in terms of areas like chemistry and cybersecurity and AI. And it's just a really exciting time to learn more. And frankly, we are going to have to think about ourselves in a future where we need quantum native people. And that takes a new generation of folks that we're going to have to train and educate to be able to go do that. And so starting now is the next best option to having started yesterday. So please reach out.
Well, absolutely love chatting with you today. We've covered so much of such as sharing technological breakthroughs in quantum, potential risk and rewards of investment in the technology, what's on the horizon and the future of quantum, and for sharing your perspectives on companies and researchers' varying approaches towards quantum computing. But I think more than anything, I think it's your ability to just demystify quantum computing for a wide range of audiences, people from various backgrounds, just by providing real-world examples of the possibilities of quantum computing. I think it just brings the whole subject to life of where we're heading with this. But I'd love to stay in touch with you, maybe get you on next year, see how things are continuing to evolve. But just a big thank you for sharing your insights today.
Absolutely. Happy to have been here. Thank you.
So a big thank you to Tony for offering us a glimpse into the exciting yet challenging world of quantum computing. And for me, today's discussion helped peel back the layers on the real-world applications of quantum technology. The risks and rewards of diving into this field and the strides being made in cybersecurity are just a few examples there. But for anyone who wants to stay ahead of the curve in understanding this fourth technological revolution, make sure you check out the Quantinuum website to remain informed. But that's it for today's episode, so stay curious, stay informed. I'll be back again bright and early tomorrow with another guest and another topic to explore with you. But just a big thank you for listening today, and until next time, don't be a stranger.